Make sure your mic's on.
Thank you. The first order of business is to nominate a chair or a vice chair for this planning commission. Do we have anybody who wants to seek the position or nominate anyone?
Here.
Okay, thank you. The other takers, vice chair?
I'll raise my hand for vice chair. My third year.
All right. Any objections or discussion? All right, let's put it to a vote, I guess. First we'll vote for the chair. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, anybody opposed? And then for the vice chair, all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Not a motion per se, but it's on the record now. The next item of business is to approve the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda at all this evening?
No changes.
The next item coming up is the consent agenda. I don't believe we have anything on the consent agenda this evening, so we'll pass that. if that's-
Actually, we have minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. We have minutes from the last meeting. That's January 5th. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I abstain. Motion passes. All right. All right, the first item we have is a public hearing for the comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning, site plan, preliminary plat, and final plat request by Optical Development Company corresponding to a proposed development of 20,061 Vivia Road.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commission members, the item before you, as mentioned, is related to Oppidan, looking at an industrial development on VB Road, which is right adjacent to Cabela's. So a little bit on the different land use requests. There is a preliminary and final plat, comp plan amendment, rezoning, and site plan. The pyramid diagram that you see corresponds to what the League of Minnesota Cities has for discretion of what cities have. So the highest discretion being in the green, lowest discretion in the red. The comp plan and rezoning fall within that green category. The plat falls within the yellow, and then the site plan in the red. A little bit about the property itself. The current owner is the VV family. Their LP, it's a few siblings that currently are in charge of this property, and the other property is owned by this family. Total size is a little over 17 acres. It is important to note that this is in half. So Rogers Drive currently cuts this in half. It's currently an unplatted property, which is why you see it. It was originally one lot, but then as right-of-way went in, it separated it into two. But it is all currently within one PID. It is currently zoned RC, which is our Regional Employment Center District, which is a mixed-use district. Its guidance is commercial, and the current use is agricultural. And then there's a residential property along VV Road to the north east side of the property. The proposed use is the light industrial speculative development, and some of the adjacent uses include there's 4 homes currently, including the one on the subject property, that are to the east along VV Road. They all front VV Road. To the north is commercial, which is Cabela's. To the south is industrial, which is across 94. And then to the west, also across 94, is industrial. It is also important to note the property to the east, adjacent to the residential homes, is industrial property as well, zoned and guided as industry that Scannell, a developer, currently owns. So looking at the preliminary plat, they are only seeking to plat the north section, so the property to the north of Rogers Drive. It would create 2 different lots. Lot 1 would be the development parcel, which is just over 9 acres in size. Lot 2 would be carved out for the existing residential home, which would remain. and continue to be owned by the seller of the property. It would also fix some existing right-of-way issues from the time that Rogers Drive went through. And as mentioned, it's currently unplatted. The land that's currently within the same PID to the south of Rogers Drive would remain unplatted until future redevelopment or development on that parcel. The final plat is consistent with the preliminary plat as well. So looking first at the rezoning request, the applicant is seeking to rezone it from RC into GI. GI is the general industry designation, the same as what is seen across 94, and then slightly to the east with the Scannell properties. Also to note, Lot 2, which is a single-family home, is shown to stay the same at RC. Comp plan request, this similar is being requested to go from commercial into industry or industrial. Same would go for Lot 2, it would remain as commercial. We did get some preliminary feedback from the Met Council. They didn't have issues with requiring a waiver, so we don't anticipate any major issues from the Met Council on this. So an overview of both of those requests. The rezoning and comp plan amendment would be a post-plat recording. So this would be something, and it's listed in the conditions in the proposed resolutions, that it would be following the plat being recorded. So we would work with a developer to have a set recording order for how things must go. It's got a condition related to the final approval by the Metropolitan Council. It is consistent with the overall 2050 comp plan expectations. This is an area which the city had anticipated looking further into the proposed uses with the 2050 plan. So this is just moving that forward a little bit more. And some of the reasons why staff was looking at shifting from commercial to industrial, and one of the reasons why the applicant is also looking at it. A lot of commercial uses are going to be looking for immediate traffic volume. So Rogers Drive doesn't have a very high traffic count that would be conducive to a commercial use. The parcel size is relatively large on either of the sides. You don't see a lot of very large commercial users coming in anymore. Access, it's relatively longer access to get to the immediate interchanges for either 94 or 101. Kind of mentioned marking conditions and not seeing a lot of large commercial users, and then a lack of available industrial properties currently within the city that are undeveloped. So a little bit on the site plan itself. The total size is 117,000 square foot building. It would front Rogers Drive and I-94. Loading docks would be located to the rear. The building itself would be 35 feet in total height, which is below the 45-foot code maximum. Parking would be along the front and southeast side of the property. Minor wetland fill on the north side of the development, and it would meet all of the setbacks for the GI district and technically the RC district. And as mentioned, the pre-existing home would remain on the site. There are utilities that are already stubbed and run along Rogers Drive, so it would connect into the utilities already into the area. And one other thing to note, there is a billboard currently on the property. One of the items, and we've talked about this with the site plan, there is an existing agreement with the VV family related to this billboard that has to be removed upon the time of development. So the billboard would be removed as part of this development plan. For parking and access, there's 124 exterior parking stalls located, as mentioned, on the front and side of the building. There's an additional 40 proof of parking stalls that could potentially be utilized in the rear of the property, taking out some loading docks. As mentioned at the beginning, this is speculative development, so the end user isn't quite known. So if there is a user with higher office percentage and less loading dock demand, they do show the space that's available to increase the parking should that be needed with whomever the end user ends up being. The built spaces are focused, the ADA spaces are really focused towards the main entrances of the building, which would be either the corners or in the middle. There are 2 access points, both off of Rogers Drive. And then as in per staff direction, there is no direct connection to VV Road to the north. That's an unimproved roadway, so we really want to focus any of the traffic to the main Rogers Drive, which is 2 lanes each way, so 4 lanes total. Looking at the landscaping, they propose 30 new overstory trees, 23 evergreens, and 4 ornamental trees with additional shrubs and grasses located throughout. Most of the shrubs being located around the direct perimeter of the building. The primary focus of the new trees, especially the evergreen trees, is located on the northeast section to really provide an additional buffer to the residential homes that are located within that area. For stormwater, they have 3 different stormwater ponds, one of which is somewhat existing. So you have a stormwater pond to the southeast, to the north, and then to the northwest, as well as a filtration ditch along Rogers Drive. For architecture, this is primarily tip-up panels with some wood accents located around the entrance points. So varying different colors in gray. They do meet our code requirements for materials as well as articulation, having that 100-foot break within the existing facade with the bump outs on both the roof line and the color scheme. So this rendering gives a little bit of a better detail of what this would look like from the exterior. So as mentioned, this item is a public hearing. The public hearing corresponds to the plat rezoning and comp plan amendment request. There are recommended motions on the screen, and there are representatives from the applicant here tonight if you have representative questions for them. Otherwise, I can answer any questions for staff.
Thank you, Al. Any discussion before we open the public hearing? Questions for staff? Any questions for the applicant? All right, hearing nothing, we'll open the public hearing. So before us, we have the resolution to approve the preliminary and final plat, the site plan. And my understanding is the comp plan amendment and so forth will be filed after the plat is recorded, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Hearing no discussion. Do we want to make a motion to approve or you guys have questions?
Chair, the only question I have is regarding the small parcel that is to the south of Rogers Drive. So the utility of that in the future and the reason for making that a part of this recommendation. Okay, could you come forward so we can, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Ryan Duran with Optin, 400 Water Street in Excelsior. Applicant has that second parcel under option to purchase, and we have a plan phase 2 for that parcel.
Thank you.
Before you step down, if you don't mind.
I just follow-up question to that. How many acres is that? Did we can
I believe that would be about 10 acres.
okay.
As part of this plat, you're gonna take a decent size, almost an acre and a half from this Darwin Schallenberger parcel, is that correct? That part of the plat?
It is not. It would just be this one parcel highlighted above.
Oh, okay. All right, good. All right. Any questions or feedback?
Actually, I'm Darren Schellenberger. And I own the property.
Could you
right-
step forward to the podium
yeah.
too for our, yeah, thanks.
My name is Darren Schellenberger and I own the property right adjacent to the VVs next to the house that's gonna stay. And what zoning is gonna be applied to that then? Is that still gonna be commercial or is that gonna be light industrial?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I can answer that question. So your property and both the home that would be adjacent, the VV's current home that they own would remain as RC
Okay,
and be guided as commercial still.
okay,
It is something that we can work with you during our comp plan update process to see if you want to retain that zoning and guidance or seek industrial zoning and guidance. That process is beginning here in Q2 of 2026.
okay.
So feel free to reach out to me. If you got the public hearing notice in the mail, it should have my email and we can have discussions about what you'd like to do with your property.
Okay. At one time, many years ago, there was talk about that probably wouldn't be developed unless it was all developed, the other two houses included and stuff, and that obviously changed.
Mr. Chair and Commission members, that'd be correct. I would say whether it's commercial or industrial, the
Mhm.
3 homes that make up, well, what would be 4 with the VVs once that's
Yeah.
parceled out would likely require all to be combined to do it. And the way that it's currently sitting and your property currently sits, it is a grandfathered use, so you can maintain it as a single family home into the foreseeable future, should you choose to.
Okay,
But if there is an opportunity that you would like to seek a redevelopment and your neighbors would also like to, you could still move forward with a redevelopment that way.
okay. And you did say the VV there'd be no access to this new building off of VV? Is that?
Yeah,
what you had
that's
said?
correct. There
Okay.
would be no direct access onto VV Road.
And all the drainage from that would go, because where I live, it's kind of low and there's water flows off that field and
Yep.
through. So that would probably not get any worse or probably be taken care of by the drainage ponds, I would
Yep.
think.
So the existing stormwater ponds as they propose would handle all the runoff from their existing parcel and any of the new impervious surface. So most of it's flowing to the south and would either hit either of the detention ponds or to the north. There's some opportunities too. So they're going to capture everything that they have, including the existing that the parcel currently sees.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I so move.
Second,
Second.
public hearing is closed. Further discussion? Make a motion to approve the preliminary and final plat and site plan.
Can I second that then?
Motion and second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries.
A few more motions on the table too. For each of those. You can certainly do it as a group.
Yeah, sure, that sounds good. So motion to recommend the approval of the resolution approving the 2040 comp plan amendment for Lot 1, Block 1, Vivia Lane addition. I'll combine that with the motion to recommend approval of ordinance 2603, approving rezoning from RC to general industrial for the subject parcel. And a motion recommending approval for resolution 2026-15, authorizing summary publication of the ordinance.
I second the 2026-14, 2026-3, and 2026-15.
That would be a motion to approve.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
sorry.
Do we have a second?
I thought you motioned.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda. Another good one here. Ordinance amending the Shoreline Protection Code, clarifying the description of the river names.
And Mr. Chair and Commission members, the item before you is a very minor amendment to our Shoreline Protection Code. On an annual basis, the DNR provides feedback on any issues that they see within any jurisdiction's codes related to shoreland, to which the DNR representative reached out notifying us that the name of the Crow River was incorrect because our pre-existing code, which carried over from the previous version of Shoreline Code, said South Fork Crow River. So the proposed ordinance amendment removes South Fork and just says Crow River and updates the legal description. There are no other proposed changes to the shoreline code. It is just a minor amendment clarifying the name and legal description of the river.
Thank you. Any discussion? Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any public comment, questions? Hearing no public questions about the name change. I'll close the public hearing and put this to a vote. I recommend approval of this name change. Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, a little bit more nuanced. We've got an amendment to our zoning section 125-84 related to accessory structures and fences.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. This is also a public hearing. The city, we are proposing an ordinance amendment to section 125-84. That section of code contains our accessory structures ordinance as well as our fence ordinance. This year, you'll see a few more ordinance updates as we move towards spring. The first batch here that we're looking at doing is for the accessory structures and fences. And just as a brief background, so we typically see ordinance amendments after comp plan updates, and oftentimes at request of council or commissions. Accessory structures was an ask for a future meeting to discuss changes in response to more recent variances. If a city is seeing multiple variances for one thing, for example, accessory structures or garages or outbuildings that we've seen in the last few years here, that it might be time to look at the regulations we have in place to make sure that it's meeting the needs of the city. The particular ordinance looks at changing outbuilding allotments for the rural residential type parcels in the city. So that includes the ag district, the R1 district, and then the R2 district where those parcels might be larger than 2 acres. So that's what the change would affect, and those as well as some clarifications to some of the regulations found in the code. I don't have a presentation, but generally speaking, that sort of first table in the ag and the R1 district is the table that is seeing the most change, or the part that's seen the most change in that accessory structures code. That's in the first subsection A. The change basically doubles the first acreage of up to 1.99 acres from 800 to 1,600. And then as parcels get larger, it's effectively a 2% allotment of outbuilding for the base acreage. So if you're sitting at 2 to 3.99, that allotment is 1,800. And then that sort of calculation moves as you get up to 10 plus acres. The other change is increasing the number of buildings permitted by 1. So if you're 3 acres or less, you are now able to have 2 outbuildings. And if you're above 3 acres, you're allowed 3 outbuildings. Otherwise, other clarifications include how we calculate lot size and then reduction of a couple inconsistencies between setback requirements found in other sections. This is sort of a larger change. And I can pause here because within the same section is fences, so maybe it's a good stopping point to talk about this one first.
My first question for you is the R1 district, what are the minimum lot standards approximately? Are they acre and a half?
1 acre
1
is the
acre.
minimum lot size.
Thank you.
So 1 acre
with enough room for a primary and secondary septic system. What we typically are seeing is about an acre and a half.
Mhm.
Effectively, because that you just need enough room for that secondary system and then meeting all the required state requirements or setbacks for tanks and septic treatment areas.
All right, in the R2, R3, R4 districts, which is the more normal subdivision sized parcels, right? Part H says no attached private garage used or intended for the storage of passenger shall exceed the footprint of the home. Can you kind of explain what that means?
So the intent behind that is to make sure, so previously it was, let me just go down to that. Okay. So previously it was 1,150 square feet. The intent is that the footprint of the garage is no larger than the footprint of the habitable area of the home. And we can revise that language if you want additional clarification.
Is it okay if how would you define the footprint of the home if you have a tuck under garage?
So I guess that would be with gross floor area. So the footprint, like we can make, that's a good question, Councilman Brianga. So we can go about that two ways. And right now it just says footprint of the home. So if you have a tuck under garage, then the footprint of the garage can oftentimes be larger, especially in a townhome type setting. So
That's what I was thinking.
for that, I can see if an additional clarification that if it is a tuck under style, accepting the styles of homes that have tuck under garages. But otherwise we can also maintain the same language there. Right, but I do see value in having no attached private garage because the other garages are detached. So we want to make sure that that language isn't confused, right? Because now you've got one section says you might be able to have 1,600 square feet, but then you've got this private garage used or intended for storage of passenger automobiles. Doesn't have that clarification whether or not that means attached or detached. We haven't had any asks about 1,150 square feet being an issue, or we haven't seen that as an issue, so we can certainly move that portion of that amendment.
With regards to your review of other similar cities and ordinances, did this come from any of that, or was this based on the idea that we generally want to constrain it to not become a more important structure than the home?
Right. So for that portion of the amendment, right, we didn't, the intent behind that is not have more garage than home on sort of the more urban, smaller lot residential. But the other changes proposed as far as allotments go are all based off of what we had been seeing for variances rather than just taking a square footage that might be right for Maple Grove and planting it here in Rogers.
How many variance requests have we had for the 8 acreage plus properties?
We've had, there was the Hoppy variance, there was the variance off of Brockton Lane that was actually less than, and I think that lot was less than an acre and the table didn't actually, so without the added language of up to, it was actually kind of excluded from the table altogether. So that was a variance request. I think that was a year ago. And then we had one off of Park Drive in January or February of last year.
I'm sorry, just
So
with the property having been on 9 acres or more, I can recall a few of them myself, but with what we're discussing in regards to making that secondary or third outbuilding
Oh, number of.
larger, or the number of them, but if you have 9 acres or 8 acres, 7 acres, you're talking about an additional 4,500 square foot structure. If I have 10 acres, I can build an 8,700 square foot structure. Is that not like a barn?
Barn, so
Yeah.
that could, so
My question is, do we want to see a variance? You know, somebody submit for variance at that scale then?
before making that determination to change.
Right,
the-
because we're jumping from 4,200 arbitrarily to 8,700, which is, yeah, more than the 2x that you're recommending on these.
And do you feel do you feel there's like a halfway down the table? Was it starting at 7 acres? Is that too large of an ask?
I
at
think
7?
5
and 5.
acres. I don't know how many parcels we have that retain that, but yeah, I think 5 and under. What does 5 acres? You make it 4.99, but up to the 5, then is that still R2?
So there are, as far as, so there are pre-zoned properties
Right.
that were sort of a more rural residential designation west of but basically west of Willendale. And there's a few others that are existing homesteads on territorial that are larger than 5 acres that are existing ag or rural residential. So there was a change in 2020.
2020 zoning changed.
Yeah, so zoning changed in 2020, and then there was another amendment to the outbuildings a couple, maybe a year later after that, 21 or 2,
22, I think.
where
maybe.
it recognized that there were existing homesteads that were pre-zoned that didn't have the same allotment as previously. So they were,
Mhm.
if you had a 2.5 acre lot, you were now limited to 500 and whatever that number is for the urban residential district.
Okay.
So-
Yeah. So you had asked, and I think once you get to 5 acres and up, there's different reasons to have, I suppose even on a 6 acre lot, having a 4,000 square foot building, it would just be dependent on economics or something, right? If somebody's operating, I don't know what it might be, some kind of hobby farm or something, so. I don't know how many we'll get above that. We're trying to be efficient, right, with the submissions and the permitting.
Yep, so if there is a need for a larger, let's say this is the change you would like to see, numbers wise. If someone was requesting 3,300 square feet in the 5 to 6.99 acre range, they would have to seek a variance at that point.
Do we want to do 1.5? So underneath those, just a suggestion for conversation.
1.5, the area of the gross parcels.
Right, yes, yeah, so,
5 acres and above.
correct, yeah.
Um, I don't, I can't do the math in my head, but it seems like to me that would make 5 acres less than 4 to 5. As far as the allowable.
What's your, how do you mean?
2%.
So above 5 acres, you would start at 2,850 for a structure. Imagine having 2 homes on 5 acres and up. 2,850 seems a big, I mean, is that a 4-stall garage?
I'd have to check, typical is what, 22 by 2 stall. 2 stall is like about 527 square feet. So that's like basically a 4 stalls in shop area.
So 22 by 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, that's helpful for commissioners to try to visualize that. So 550 square feet is a 2-stall. And so we're already at 1,900 for 5 acre. I think we've seen a lot of 2.5, and some township, variance requests. I don't know if we've seen anything come in that was really large.
Was that Park Drive one was that on 5 acres?
Mhm.
5.63 acres, the Iverson. And that one basically did double the size of what was previously permitted.
Using your formula, 10 acres, you'd get a roughly a 6,500 square foot accessory building, which is the 8,700 at 2%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 10, I had to double check. Might be 1.5% on a 10 acre one.
Ten acres, they could have up to 3 structures, is that right?
Yeah.
So 3
So-
structures that,
6,500, yeah, is about 1.5 for 10 acres.
okay.
Any discussions about this?
Curious to know if that solves the variances.
Yeah, what's it be a wait and see, right? No ordinance is perfect. It's always a work in progress. It's a kind of a living document, right? So as technology and attitudes change, we'll have to make adjustments.
The historical ones recently, right?
Yep.
Like, so if you go back and you take the new formula, do we still have the same problem?
I did check that and it looked like this one, the only question I would have is the Iverson one. I have to go back and look at, double check what that one would have done. I can just take a. Was it 4,700 combined? So that one would have still needed a variance, but that's, that's over, he asked for over double what was previously allowed, which is a very large. That one might be an outlier compared to some of the other
Mhm.
variances, because I know there were several other variances previous to when I got here. I didn't.
That one was, he was extending it, right?
It was-
There was already a.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so. And then it was rural. So.
So as far as the table, I'm hearing, once you, for 5 acres and above, shift the formula to 1.5% of the base lot.
Sure, I mean, if we wanted to make it loose above, 8 or even above 10. In other words, go back to the 2x, but I think somewhere in there you want to leave some room for conversation about, what's the purpose? And that's the point of a variance, right? A request for it is to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So.
So that one of the issues I have with, so you've got a school of thought of, so the variance is a quasi judicial action of the city, meaning that you have a particular test you have to pass that is around what the practical difficulties are for meeting code. And when you're looking at sizes of structures, you can meet the code And the ask for a variance when it comes to size and number is often kind of a nebulous argument, right? Because you can just meet the code.
Mhm.
There's nothing stopping you from meeting the code. If your needs are for a larger outbuilding is you may have to be in a different lot, right? So that's one standpoint is the variance, and it's always up to sort of that interpretation of those difficulties on the lot and ultimately action of the council, right? So the other tool could be a conditional use permit process, which just, you just have an additional requirements you might have to meet for a larger outbuilding. I haven't looked at that, but that's one option that could be done. But if you want to back down of that percentage and then see where we sit with other requests in the next couple of years, we can do that and then see if there's another measure we put in place to ask for a conditional use permit or
Conditional use would, oh, I was going to ask again, because you're bringing this before us, for city council to consider to make it written. And so what are the open risks? If we want to call them risks, I mean, what would be permissible? I'm trying to just think of examples of things that would be just obnoxious, that could be
so
problematic.
risk wise is always a sort of a larger commercial use, I think, happening in an outbuilding without a home occupation permit. So sometimes we won't know what the use of it will be
Mhm.
until it's done. And then now there's a large sort of, maybe it's a contractor service happening in an outbuilding without that home occupation. So the argument then is if the outbuilding ultimately ends up larger than the home and now there's a commercial use in it, is that more of a commercial property now than
Mhm.
a residential property? So I see that there is value in reducing that percentage after 5 acres and then going through a different process to get it beyond that. If you want to not have a CUP option in there for now and wait and see, that's totally valid to wait and see what comes out of the change.
Why not include a COP option in there then?
I mean, a CUP is, I mean, it's a permanent approval, right? So, I mean, so is a variance though. So I think the CUP, if you want a tool to go beyond what's in the list of this table, a CUP makes the most sense. It just comes down to if you're going to see a variance for an outbuilding,
Mhm.
is the sort of the opinion that you'll just, if it's a reasonable request, are you going to approve it? Is sort of the question you kind of have to ask yourselves, right? And if the answer is yes, without there being sort of a difficulty associated with
Right.
how the land sits, like, is it not really like a setback variance is easy, right?
Mhm.
Is there a wetland in the way? Yes, so that's a difficulty. You can't meet a setback if there's a wetland in the way, right?
Mhm.
It's a different kind of ask than I want to go bigger because I want more. So if the answer is you would just approve a variance that way, maybe that's a CUP might be the better tool for that.
But it wouldn't be either or, correct? It would be,
I think it would have to be a CUP and then CUP for size.
Mhm.
If you're not sure about number,
Yeah.
keep the number out of it.
And I mean, can you do it the 1.5%? All accessory structures greater than 1.5% on parcels greater than 5 acres require a conditional use permit?
Do that. I can add that language as a note. Do you think it's are you thinking the ag table and the R1 table will be the same? The 1.5% after 5, or just in the R1 districts?
Just in the R1.
I agree.
I mean,
But then the R2, R3, they have CUP requirement? No?
No.
No, just R1.
R1, okay.
So I have a question as well.
Vice versa.
So some of those R2 properties are larger because they used to be acre.
Mhm.
Now they're R2.
Yep.
So if, let's say you have a R2 property that's 7 or 8 acres, but yet on this, it says they have to follow the R2 requirements as far as number of buildings and size of buildings.
So that language for, where is it? On any property in the single family R2 district that is over 2 acres in area, the R1 district standards apply.
Okay.
So if you're in an R2 district that's a homestead over that acreage, then you would be able to do a conditional use permit.
Oh, so it would have to be conditional use permit though,
Well, it would be,
or the same. as
assuming-
how they-
yeah, assuming this is the change we go with, right?
Okay. Okay, thank you. And one other question. Some of those larger properties have requirements around livestock. Is there any correlation between like the required buildings required for livestock and size of those buildings? Are they tied together?
I don't think, our animal ordinance just says that, I think it's language about confinement.
I'm just wondering if we allow livestock, but then we're not allowing the building size to accommodate.
So livestock are only allowed in the R1 district,
Yeah,
I think.
yep, I'm talking about R1. I thought R2 got updated though
I don't
in
think it did.
2022.
I
No,
don't know
it
if
didn't. It was just the
The
buildings.
buildings, right? That was some of the, this discussion we'll have to have for chickens and so forth in the future.
Okay.
Alec, I have a question.
Okay.
Do these statute, the ones that Amy were referring to, coincide with the state statutes? Because there are requirements for livestock.
So building code does have exemptions for agricultural property, right? So if you're agricultural property, there's an exemption from building permits, but not necessarily zoning.
Okay.
So I'd have to talk to our building official to sort of confirm that. That might be something we want to double check when we go through the livestock and animals ordinance updates to see if there's anything we need to reevaluate with the building official. Yeah, based off of Brett's, there's no size requirement in the animal ordinance currently for certain types of animals.
All right. To simplify matters, do we want to just take a voice vote on this, accessory structures? With amendments? I'll let you make the motion since, or do you want me to rephrase it based on?
You phrase it. I already got it.
All right. To amend the ordinance for section 125-84, part A, table 21 R1. Is that the right one? Yes, that is the right one. Leave the table as stands for parcels up to 5 acres. And then reduce it to 1.5% of the parcel areas up to 10 acres. Any requests greater than 1.5 acre, 1.5% and 2% will require a conditional use permit. And I would say at no point shall it exceed 2% total parcel area.
So for the CUP requirement, no more than 2%?
Correct. CUP requirement for 1.5 to 2%. No CUP would be a variance at that point. Anything
Okay.
above 2%. Any other discussion?
And then the other item was in the urban residential districts that
Yes.
backing off of the footprint of the home and going back to 1,150 square feet gross area for the garage.
I don't know. To be completely honest, I do not have a concern about this one, the footprint of the home. I don't know if anybody else would like to voice an opinion on that. I feel like the situation with tuck under homes is usually because the home is constrained on a smaller parcel. So having a garage of that size is probably not all that practical.
Two-family home. Typically it's 50%.
Anybody?
Just so we're not recommending that any change to that.
That's
Sure.
my personal opinion.
Okay.
Uh,
Uh, I think if we include the language with the tuck under garage, just to cover that. But otherwise, no, we've had a couple variance requests with structures. So removing that size and then referring to the detached structure size allowed. I'm okay with that. So.
Do we have consensus on that? So that can be,
So just to clarify, you're recommending we don't change the proposed.
he would
right?
like to change it so that not exceed the footprint of the home, less any garage area that's included under the primary residence.
Is it, yeah, I would refer to you with the language because we had raised that or
Yeah,
council
wondering,
never raised it.
I'd have
yeah.
to look back at some of the, I'm pretty sure for the two-family garages, or two-family homes, like attached townhomes, typically it isn't larger, because they're usually just a two-stall garage.
Mhm.
I've never seen a three-stall on a townhome. Tuck under for a single-family home,
This one
Ed-
on territorial. It's not real big.
yeah, is it a two-stall?
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are oftentimes split entry homes, and they still have a footprint, usually that's larger in the garage. So I'm not sure if it's a huge issue, but we can look at that and have something with the council to look at and see if that's a concern there or
If it's not a concern, I just wanted to
Yeah.
acknowledge it because it was brought up as a,
um,
I just think it needs to be defined, so if it comes up.
well, then we'll recommend that council define it.
maybe we can do we can do gross square footage, but then you've got
Multiple floor.
permit wise is a little bit more time just to measure all that out and
You don't want to define it to 3 stalls either or 2 because
probably not, right? Because I have seen
you'll have a
larger,
lot, yes, yeah.
I've seen four stall garages are in some of the custom homes and some of the larger, even some of the larger R2 lots are a couple, not a
Mm.
lot, but
Be future.
Sorry, I read a curveball.
yeah, that was, I mean, good question.
All right.
So I think we just recommend to council to mind letter H and do we have any recommendations there as far as language?
I mean, you could leave it up to staff to draft something, bring forward if you're okay with the tuck under part.
Mhm.
Could you state again the language for that you were both
Well,
discussing here?
so for tuck under garages, I guess it could be based off of gross square footage, but then we could even do a different percentage. I don't want to pick a random one without looking at some of the more recent permits that came in.
Okay.
So we can prep, I can prep
Well,
sort of our sort of average size that we've been seeing for some of that and the breakdown.
Sure. And add 10 or 15, 20% to it to,
Yeah, I mean, it could be tuck under garages or, the garage can't be no greater than 60% of the footprint or
Okay.
75 or.
so there we are. So recommendation to look into how to phrase that.
We have consensus on this? So the recommendation for letter H is that staff will review and revise the language to include a provision for tuck under homes based on accepting that area in the total allowable area for the accessory garage. Alright.
Next section is in the same section, but subsection F for fences. Basically, for residential fences, we are moving away from requiring permits. So the last couple of years, we've had a permit, but there haven't been any inspections involved. So in order to free up time, because we do see a lot of fences, but it's just a site plan review. It does add up, even though it's not a huge amount. We have to back off on some of the regulations. So currently, and this really is specific to kind of corner lots and how some of the fence code was kind of piecemealed and kind of created some difficult language. So right now, if you're building a fence that's basically 6 feet tall, it's only allowed in the rear yard, so to the back corner of the house. And then if you're on a corner lot, you're also restricted to meet the setback of the corner on the house. So if you're on a corner, you're now 25 feet away from that corner lot line. So then you've shrunk the amount of fence allowed. And then there's language regarding decorative fences being outside of the easement. Doesn't have that restriction for 6 feet tall fences that are privacy or boundary yard. And then there's no clear distinction between boundary versus decorative versus some other fence. So the shifts permit would only be required so it kind of reorganizes the fence section. If you require a building permit when you're over 7 feet, that's a state statute requirement, building code requirement. Those types of fences are only permitted in non-residential districts as it is, right? So we wouldn't see any residential permits for anything beyond 6 feet, since that just isn't permitted. It's not permitted now. And then the requirements, basically, you're allowed to be in the side yard now for 6 feet and above, or 6 feet tall fences. And then you can be in the front yard if you're 4 feet or 3.5 feet, depending on where it sits in relation to opacity. There's the same traffic visibility requirement on corner lots, so you can't place a fence above the height of 2.5 feet in that corner visibility triangle. So that still remains the same. And then there's language regarding drainage utility easements are sort of at your own risk, since we currently allow boundary fences on the property line. Those, if you're in a subdivision, you have a stormwater management plan already. D&U easements are built at your own risk, right? Placement of structures that are permanent for fences are at your own risk. If there's a city requires maintenance in some of those areas for regrading, that would have to be removed at the owner's cost. There is in here that's, that they can't be within maintenance routes for ponds. And then can't cause drainage issues, or drainage to change or impact stormwater management or impact the physical infrastructure. So you can't just put it down a pipe and punch a hole in it. That'd be an issue. So. And it's more of an overhaul than the outbuilding ordinance, right? Where it's a reorganization. And then just breaking it down into what types of fences, and anything that goes up now is still permitted, right? So if you can do split rail now, you can still do split rail. There's no changes in types of fences allowed. It's just backing off the restrictions so that, we're not getting in the middle of civil disputes as well, right? So that's another consideration, is fences are the largest of neighborhood disputes by far. And typically it is a civil matter at that point anyways, right? It comes down to an argument between where my property line is, right? So we can't get in the middle of that. We don't have a licensed surveyor. And if we're doing final inspections, we don't want to come in to a situation where we're acting as a licensed surveyor when we're not, right? So it's still the owner's responsibility to know where their lines are.
Real quick, I don't know if this was just me, but I had a fence built 7, 8 years ago. I had to go to my neighbors and have them review and sign. Is that still a policy, or that policy? go
Well,
away?
so it's not really a policy now. It's not, it hasn't, if you're reading, through the strike throughs, there's no ordinance requirement for permission.
Gotcha.
So it had just been a practice.
Yep, best practices.
But it never would have, it hasn't prevented me from approving it because it's not a codified step.
Thank you.
I did it last year and I did get my neighbor's approval.
Yep.
Thought that was required.
It has been in the submittal package for as long as I've been here. It did confuse me, right? Because it's a good practice to notify that, hey, I'm gonna be on the right on the property boundary typically, right? So, that way you at least have a conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Could we,
My neighbor's deck is like literally like a foot away from my property line. It's not on a solid foundation. It
okay,
can be removed. And so
Voting,
to give
yeah.
them some space and be a nice guy, I showed them the survey and I said, the fence is not going to be on the property. It's going to be 2 feet from your property line, so you have room to mow. And so I really appreciate that I could have that conversation.
Is that going to be available still in a packet from the city if somebody calls, or can it be made available online?
we can keep we can keep an information section on about fences and just have, hey, we don't have a permit, but here's what you should think.
Just, we can just call it the good neighbor
Policy.
packet. Yeah. And then along with that, is there language in here about fences? You go through neighborhoods and you see, there's a fence here, and then 1.5 feet away, there's a different fence, totally different structure type. And then there's this nuisance in between. So is there language in this that is supposed to solve that or not?
As far as like, hey, we've got 2 fences and then just in the middle, there's no maintenance being done.
Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't. Both sides still need to be maintained.
Okay.
Typical is,
Can we make the language requirement where if one neighbor, they're first, right? And this is domino effect, but you have to connect the fence to the other or not?
I hesitate to add, to require conjoining of the fences. Because if it's placed in the wrong spot, now we've got,
So at your own risk.
Thinking of
still at your own risk, but
my fence last year too, they they purposely, even though I had the property line and everything was drawn out, they purposely moved it back. I think it was either 6 inches or a foot. So now my fence is actually in on my property. My property extends. So that theoretically, if you have that requirement, you're ceding property to your neighbor. But the builders will always do on the inside to be safe.
So,
That's why I had my neighbors sign my document, because I didn't want them to get prescriptive rights over the land I'm letting them maintain.
Right, right.
adverse possession is a hard, I mean, you can do it, but it's like requires years of documented aggressive maintenance of adjacent property. I don't know if there's all that many cases here in Rogers. We can put in there, a best management or best practices section in there in the general, I mean, to say, hey, if you're not gonna connect fences, you should have enough room to maintain both sides. Or if you're joining the fences, have a joint maintenance agreement, because then it's a shared fence line.
Sure.
Can I
We
ask
can-
a
we can
Something
certainly
rather
modify
than,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Language would be in such a manner that it's sort of,
I think that if there must be, a distinct space between, I think it ought to be not a foot. I think it ought to be 3-5 feet. But yeah, I don't know if we can do that
And
with,
I feel like that's up to the homeowner. or
Right.
neighbors, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can build a fence where, as long as it's within your property line.
sure. Yeah,
I don't think we should be involved with letting them, or telling individuals you have to connect your fences together.
right. But in the case where we're going to have a fence that's not joined, how much space should be between them? How much setback between them?
Once again, I kind of feel like that's up to the owners to place where they want to put their fence on their property. I mean, I understand the feedback of having some guidance on having a agreement with your neighbor, or it must be
Mhm.
maintained. I don't think we should recommend where on their property they have to.
Certain distance.
And sorry to maybe change the topic a little bit. I had a question on section B where it says rear yard boundary fence. It says decorative fencing shall not include chain link fences. But then if you go down to section C, it says a chain link fence be erected at feet in excess of 4 feet. That verbiage was just, it's confusing to me. Maybe I'm just not understanding it. But in one section, it says 3.5 feet, no chain link. And then this next section, it says chain link okay, but not in excess of 4 feet. Unless I read that wrong, which is totally.
let me double check. I think that section B should maybe be just retitled.
Yeah, and we don't, I just wanted to call it out as maybe you guys could just take a quick review on that verbiage.
I think
Like I said,
B,
I could be wrong in reading it, but it was very confusing to read through.
we could do, it could just be boundary fence, or even fence performance. Right, restrictions. Height and location. Could be performance standard, and then C remains design requirements. Because that section B includes height and then location of where one type of fence is allowed and where the other is allowed. So the intent is you can't have a 6-foot tall fence in your front yard. You can only have a decorative right in the front.
Yeah, like I said, we don't have to go through it. It was just maybe something you can take back and review the verbiage a little bit
Okay.
more, just
Mhm.
to help make it a little clearer. Thank you.
So that part C1 there where it says the decorative chain link fence in no case shall be erected in height of excess of 4 feet. Is that the conflict there?
That's what I was questioning because I thought chain link wasn't allowed decorative.
That's, it says privacy, comma, decorative, comma,
So
chain link.
it's, yeah. Boundary fences may be a variety of styles.
Hmm.
But the chain link fence can't be in excess of 4 feet.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a design requirement, not a.
So then, yeah, we'll do, oh, we can clarify B to make sure it matches C, right? That we want privacy fences or decorative fences may, let's see, privacy, decorative. Yeah, we can do that. We can do, make sure that matches, right? The intent is that chain link can't be in excess of 4 feet, and then the other types not in excess of 6.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. If you had that provision regarding the 4 versus 6 in the front and side yards.
Yep.
Rear yards. One last question. None of this affects any of the building code requirements for swimming pools?
Correct. There will be some modifications to that section. Our building official is working on that to make sure it matches state statute requirements. But depending, because right now it's basically you need a non-climbable fence around your pool or an automatic pool cover that meets the A-STEM requirement by building code. So well, it shouldn't impact that, but we'll make sure that the pool ordinance is clear on what's required and whether or not an existing fence meets that safety fence requirement or not.
Yeah, the chain link fence is a climbable fence, right? So that would not be permissible
Right.
closure for.
So that's, yeah, it's gotta be non-climbable fence, which, I don't know if it was like, no, it was a weird,
Yeah, something about no
Like,
openings greater than.
like so many inches, so you can't,
Horizontal.
yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? This is a public hearing. We should open it to the public if there's any comments.
So I have one question. Since you're talking about decorative fencings, it lists brick. Yeah, but then it says opacity 50% or less. That was on page 6, I think.
Okay.
Unless I read it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Capacity of decorative fence. And I think that could be changed to.
Maybe we could remove brick fences or or have, design, no greater except for brick. Well, there's not a lot,
Yeah,
and
Third
usually,
Railroad is another one that has.
is it
Yeah,
a section?
farmhouse.
It's not the
No,
whole,
it's kind of
yeah.
like this. Solid.
Is it the front only?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's not very tall, but it's,
Mhm.
doesn't have spaces in it. It's solid brick.
Yeah, we can make an exception in the opacity for brick
Okay.
if we want to keep that in there.
Yeah, it's up to you guys if you want to.
No, I think that's good. I think that we should allow decorative brick fences in the front yard at 3.5 feet. And obviously, they're not gonna have less than 50% opacity, so if we accept that, it makes sense.
Okay.
Further discussion? All right, I'll open the public hearing. Have anybody in the audience? Just a comment?
Hello, my name is Colin Bauer. I live at 12617 Otto Street right over here. I've lived here for 23 years. My wife is Darcy Bauer. She has lived here for 45 years. And the reason I'm here tonight is because of your guys' fence ordinance. I saw it was on the agenda. If you want to see it at work, you can go drive by after this meeting by my house and sort of see what you guys allowed to happen in my neighborhood there. I have a pole barn in the backyard. It's a 28 by 30 pole barn that was approved by this very board probably 30 years ago. And I have 14 foot off the side of my house that was actually submitted to Mr. Henderson here before the fence was built. And a guy came in and surveyed it out of Duluth. And you guys approved a fence that now I can't even get my boat in my shed or anything. And so I actually tried to buy that land from my neighbor. He extorted me. And I encourage you to Google him after this meeting as well. And you guys are creating issues with civil matters that don't have to happen. You need to have setbacks. You can't have the homeowner put the thing on the line as well. So he considered that the line. There's no pins, no markers out there. The property markers are gone. I used to be a surveyor. They actually had to go from the other side of the block and try to pull where the pins were. So they couldn't find the pin. And they came and relocated it 2 separate occasions so that he could move that fence onto my yard. And so going away with these ordinances, I honestly, I don't have no idea why you guys pay for a permit for these things. They're $100. Nobody comes out and inspects them. I've wrote to Mr. Henderson many times. I've tried to speak to him. I've even had the secretary have him on the line on the computer and he wouldn't call me back. And so we've had many heated discussions about this, but I encourage you guys to look at this strongly. I grew up in Alexandria, Minnesota, where there's a 5-foot setback. And I'm telling you, you guys need to get this under control before it gets really bad. So.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions? Make a motion to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. I have a motion to approve this revision to the ordinances as noted during commission discussion. I don't know how else to phrase it. There's a lot of different nuance in this. Anyone?
I'm sorry, were you making the motion? or you-
No, I was asking if we
Okay.
have somebody would like to make a motion.
Oh, got it. I'll make that motion. You summarized it very nicely.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
It's approved.
Okay. Item number 4, consideration of a preliminary final plat and site plan corresponding to Rogers Civic Campus Development at Industrial Boulevard and Main Street.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commission members, the item before you is corresponding to the proposed civic campus, which would be a city hall and police department and some ancillary uses for the city, right off Main Street and 81. So a little bit about the property itself. It's most commonly referred to as a former Boyer truck site. It technically is 6 different PIDs currently, one of which was the former Holiday gas station, which was demoed in late 2024. A former Main Street triplex, which was demoed at the same time, and then the former Boyer trucks, which is currently being used for storage. The city acquired the former Holiday back in 2015 and then completed the acquisitions of the former Boyer and triplex at the end of 2023. Combined, this has a total size of about 4.35 acres in total. It is zoned and guided as downtown mixed use. In the master plan, the Main Street master plan, which we're currently working on updating, it is shown as the civic campus. Previous master plans showed this primarily as commercial use. It's currently just vacant and used for storage. proposed use would be new city hall, council chambers, and then police department. For your information, just on its existing buildings and what they'd be utilized for, where city hall is currently located would be, which was originally anticipated as a short-term solution, while a longer-term solution was identified. That would become for public works and engineering, which is currently the first floor. They would take the second floor. And then once this would be completed, the police department building, once they're fully moved and settled in, would be then likely put up for sale, dependent on council direction there. Some of the adjacent uses include commercial to the east, commercial to the north. I put industrial and commercial to the south just because there are some pre-existing grandfathered industrial uses in that area. And then west is primarily industrial, with the directly adjacent site being Grobner, which is a manufacturer. So the proposed plat would take the 6 parcels and put them into one, regardless of the site plan or future use. This is something that we were going to need to have to do regardless. So the proposed use would just make the one lot. So lot 1, block 1, Rogers Civic Campus. This proposed plat was reviewed by Hennepin County, which did not have any concerns or any needs for additional right-of-way corresponding to the overall site. Looking at the overall site plan itself, total size is approximately 60,000 square feet. It's structured, and I'll kind of go through the internal structure a little bit more in future slides, but there would be a plaza space that would be identified on the Main Street side, which would connect into the sidewalk connections throughout the Main Street area. The primary entrance would be fronting John Deere. This site's fairly unique that it is technically a 3-front building, so we were really trying to be cognizant of that through the design process for this building. Total height would be 1 to 2 stories in height, so the city hall and council chambers would be the 1 story in height, and then the police department, which also houses our IT, would be the 2-story. IT would be, and police would be on the west side of the site, including their garage, and then the city hall functions, which includes administration, community development, and finance would be on the eastern side, with adjacent to the plaza space would be the actual council chambers. So a little on parking, total of 138 exterior parking stalls. Of that, 51 would be in a secure gated area for the police department on the western side of the site. So really let's see if I can get a marker here in this area, if you can see the little red dot. And then 87 total stalls in the public area. So this is above our code requirements, but this was an important feature that we were looking at early on in the design process. The intention for the number would be to create a potential solution or potential add to the Main Street district to allow for public parking. City Hall typically is going to be non-peak hours, so it's a daytime, weekday use. So the intention would be to create public parking that could be utilized for nights and weekends for the entire district. So that would be public parking post council and city operations. There are a few different access points. There's one which would be right in, right out on along Main Street. This was where the former triplex was located, that property. A access point on John Deere Lane, which would connect into the overall public area. It's also important to note that both the front doors, whether it's police department and or city hall and council chambers, all are with Deere and would be accessed off this main public parking area. A secondary access point on John Deere, this would be gated, so this would be purely for police use and potentially building department use. So this would be a controlled entrance into this location, not open to the general public, as well as the access that goes directly out onto industrial. That would be gated as well. So not something that would be publicly accessible to get into the building or to park. Looking at the landscaping, so nearly 100 trees in total, which would be a mix of deciduous and coniferous trees as well as ornamental. The primary focus of it is around the perimeter of the site with the focus on John Deere Lane. That really coincides with the master plan of what we were doing and the potential future pedestrian corridor that would run along John Deere as the properties to the west further redevelop. Additional shrubs and grasses throughout, and it is important to note with this site plan and the overall plans for this development, there's overall reduction in impervious surfaces. The current former Boyer site is nearly 100% impervious. So this is actually improving and getting to our code in that area. So I previously mentioned the plaza space. This is just a little bit more of a zoomed in feature of that. So with the master plan, one of the identified features from both the public and city staff direction was creating areas and pockets throughout the Main Street district for public gathering spaces, whether it's just for break time to sit, or it could be potentially combined into larger city events should it be needed. But this would be right at the Main Street piece. So really trying to be a focal point for the Main Street. So a little bit more on the internal build out, just more for curiosity purposes. And now we don't typically go through internal build outs, but since the commission hasn't seen too much of this before, I thought it'd be important to just note this area where you can see the little red dot going in circle on the east side. That would be the council chambers. So that would be the potential location of future planning commission meetings. This is the main entrance into the building located in this very front east side, to which it enters into the counter, which would serve administration, finance, community development. And then there's some additional workspaces corresponding to both engineering and fire department. So really serving as a primary focal point as someone enters the building. So offices would be in this general area, break room, training rooms for all staff. The police department and IT are located on the western side of the building. So with police departments, they have a lot of different needs corresponding to like evidence rooms, things of that. So their space really is designed in a manner to accommodate and work well with the police department. One of the challenges with the existing building is it was a retrofitted building, so there are some operational challenges that can lead to. It's working great, but it's kind of out of space, and the same could be said for City Hall. And then a little further to the east on that side is the enclosed parking, which would be used for the storage of any of the city police department vehicles. There is an internal connection that would serve between a hallway connection between the City Hall and police department side, just for the public purposes. So looking at the architecture, that was one of the features that was a primary component for the city as we looked at this site. So most of the building and what you see in the primary areas of the building on the three sides are a brick facade, brick with glazing, some metal accents, and a little bit of wood accents here and there. This was an important feature for during the planning process. This was to ensure that we have consistency throughout the entire district. Obviously, we have a range of different ages of buildings throughout Main Street, but brick is the one common theme that seems to be more timeless. So we want to ensure that we are consistent with the types of uses and types of materials that were seen in the past. The only difference would be on the garage area that's anticipated to be precast paneling. One, just for cost savings, but two, it still can overall match the features of the proposed building. Here are a couple renderings. The one you see on the right-hand side corresponds to the plaza space. And then the one on the left-hand side would be if you're looking at it more from the County Road 81 to Main Street intersection. So the left-hand side with the glass that's lit up, that's reflective of the council chambers. And then on the right-hand side of that being more of the office locations. one of the important features was kind of creating and this tied back to when the property was acquired and we were looking at different uses as well as the master plan, creating a strong gateway to the Main Street district. So there'd be likely some signage as well that corresponds to Main Street generally. So this one is also a public hearing corresponding to the plat. And there is also representatives from our architect here from Leo A. Daly, if you have any direct questions for the architect. Corresponding to, I can just quick go back to mention it, stormwater. There is an existing pond that's located in kind of the right-of-way area. This would be expanded. The expanded pond really is going to encompass all of the building surfaces that would flow that way, but most of the site flows to the north. So the parking areas are really going to flow into the stormwater basin that's shown on the bottom of this image. So with that, I can stand for any questions that you have for staff. And one important note for this one as well, the vote tonight or recommendation tonight corresponds to the actual site plan itself. There are additional conversations and requirements for the council corresponding to actual funding of the project. This does not relate to the funding. This is purely the site plan.
Thank you. First thing I have a question about is the improvements within the right of way of Industrial Boulevard, the screen wall, trash enclosure, the generator, and the pond. The physical things, are those going to be on an encroachment agreement basis, or is there going to be vacation of right of way?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's a great question. We did explore both of those options. There's going to be likely a right-of-way license that corresponds to it. The reason why we went away from the vacation process is there's quite a few utilities that run right along that property line, not city-owned utilities as well. So you're looking at Excel and some other uses. So it didn't seem feasible to do the right-of-way vacation at this time. It is city-owned right-of-way. So we do just anticipate to do an encroachment agreement or right-of-way license. Haven't figured out legally which is the best option yet.
Understood. And the stormwater basin, is that Hennepin County or is that city?
Mr. Chair, that's city. So right now, well, primarily city. So right now, the right-of-way line is close to about right here. So 81 being a county road, and then Industrial Boulevard is a city road. So most of that right of way almost entirely is city. The county did ask a question. I believe we're currently maintaining that stormwater pond as it is. So as long as we're doing the maintenance, the county didn't have concerns related to that they expressed to me.
Everything on this is really awesome. I love it personally. I am concerned about the full access onto Main Street. I presume engineering has reviewed that or will review that as a right in, right out possibility or maintaining full access?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's just right in, right out. So
Oh,
that's
that's-
not going to be a full access onto that location.
Okay. Would that-
Primarily because if you're taking a left out, you can only get to go right onto County Road 81. So that'll be right in, right out, and likely the median's going to be extended to that point.
That's what I was wondering. I'd like to see some access controls, either Pork Chop Island or extending that median in the middle of the road. One other comment I have, and this is purely because my wife sells a lot of stuff on the internet. At the current police facility, there's a place that she goes to park. And since the police main entrance is going to be on that west side, we'll have those doors on the east side, I think, with the set of stairs. Is there any plans to have a closed circuit TV or anything that could be monitored for that sort of thing?
Hey, Mr. Chair, that's a great question. It's one I can't say that we've had discussions about. There will be cameras throughout the entire property, as we would have with any police department, especially. So there is glass that fronts along the police department side that would look onto that parking lot. So there is the ability for any individuals to see, and there is a front desk that serves the police that could definitely review those cameras. So there will be cameras. We can look to potentially mark a spot for a safe transaction zone too as well.
I appreciate that. Told my wife. Like dominated questions here. You guys have questions?
No, the only one I was gonna bring up, you already did with the Main Street access, so
Yeah.
nothing further there.
I had a question on the plaza. So you mentioned going to the like main, like an idea of Main Street development, having those public spaces. I just kind of curious on size and like the thought process of what that plaza could actually entail, or is it kind of just something to fulfill the need for Main Street, or is there a thought of what it actually, how many people could fit there in the space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of the way it's structured and with the grades, it's not going to be one where you're seeing a farmer's market or anything like that. Obviously, we have Central Park that accommodates the larger events that happen within the area. But the one thing that we are currently continuing to explore is this main access point, and if there's opportunities with the curbing to make that so that street could theoretically, or access point could be shut down for larger events. But there's not anticipating any true programming out of here. There's not going to be an amphitheater or anything like that. It's more of a rest stop or green space opportunity throughout the entire district. And that's really, when you looked at Rogers Main Street, the previous master plans had like a Church Ave shut down for a larger plaza space. Now we're going more towards kind of pocket plazas throughout that provides an opportunity to incorporate a lot more green space into the overall district, but as well as kind of serving both pedestrians and then the direct people that are operating in those areas. So the other small pocket parks could theoretically be for restaurants or things like that too. But there's no direct programming. There's not an amphitheater or anything planned for this one. More just kind of pedestrian level lighting, something that would provide an opportunity at all times of the day.
On the A1 elevation, overall exterior elevation south, on the right side where the council chambers are, this brown feature, is that glass glazing? What is that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's a great question as well. So one of the items that we're, and perhaps Leo ideally would want to touch on it more, but it's really tied to both the master planning process and this process. We didn't want to have a pure brick facade and just nothing on it. So really what we're looking at is potentially programming that with an artistic element, whether that's metal lettering or whether that's all the way up to a mural, something that draws a little bit more of a feature to the Main Street area and to specifically the plaza. Because we didn't just want pure brick facade that is rather uninviting. So that area is intended to incorporate something that kind of spruces up generally and breaks up that facade.
I know cost is always a concern, but the more natural light we can get in the council chambers, the happier I would be.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and I think that's a good point too. So this back area that fronts the plaza, this is actually the rear of the council chambers. So
Gotcha.
if I kind of, the council chambers really ends where this line's going. So this back area is a secured area,
Okay.
both for security purposes, for an escape out should it ever be needed. Or for, there's also AV that's located back here. So it's kind of restructuring. So this won't directly be in part of the council chambers. There's some rooms back there.
Okay.
I believe a restroom is going to be back there as well.
And the dais does it have 2 stairs? And is there an accessible way for someone to get up there?
Yeah, I
Oh,
believe.
I just see it. I see it now. The
Yep.
5% ramp on the other side. Thank you. All right. The questions? I'll open the public hearing. Anybody? Anyone? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Any further discussion? The applicant, the architect, or anybody like to speak, talk about the project? How great it is working with our city staff? Well, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I'm not looking at the documents. Are we also approving a plat yet, or does that come later?
That was all under the same resolution, so we can tie
Alright.
your motion to that.
Awesome. Approved it and didn't even know it. All right. New business. Consideration of a site plan application by Bader Companies for proposed multifamily development at 21601 John Deere Lane, former Willis Trucking property.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commission members, as mentioned, the item before you is a redevelopment of the Willis Trucking property into market rate apartments. So a little bit of background on this item. A concept plan was reviewed by the Planning Commission and City Council back in 2025. Generally in support of the development with comments primarily focused related to traffic. And a traffic study has been completed. And I'll go into some details about that in a later slide. So there is general consistency with the past concept plan that was reviewed by both City Council and Planning Commission. Since the time of concept plan review, there's been a few different grants that have been awarded to the project from Deed and Hennepin County pertaining to the environmental cleanup. And I'll go through site conditions of what it's currently like in the next slide. With the Main Street Master Plan currently going through the process of being updated, and with this potential development that was incorporated into it, past master plans for the area did identify this site for a multifamily use. So the site itself, the owner is currently Willis Enterprise. Willis Trucking is the name of the site in the current owner operator. So it's been used for heavy truck repair and service since its original development. There's also some tire sales that had occurred there with Hoosier Tire. The proposed developer is a mix of Bader and Ebert companies, both of which are here tonight if you have questions directly for the developer. The site size is approximately 4.61 acres total. It's currently in 2 parcels. So one of the conditions as part of the site plan approval corresponds to combining those 2 parcels. The zoning is downtown mixed use, and the guidance is mixed use as well, downtown mixed use. As previously noted, both the planned updated master plan and previous master plans identified this site for multifamily. The proposed use is 181 units of market rate, more luxury multifamily. And some of the adjacent uses include commercial industrial to the east, the proposed civic campus, which you just saw, to the north. South would be the railroad, and then industrial across the railroad site. And then west is currently industrial, but as mentioned, those are grandfathered uses and are guided for different uses into the future. The site plan itself, the total number of units is 181. I'll have a breakdown on the next slide. A total of 3 stories in height, which is approximately 31 feet in total height, which is below the maximum for the downtown zoning district. Generally H-shaped with the parking along the edges and as well as underground parking. And I'll have a future slide on the total number of parking stalls. Pool and clubhouse would be located centralized into the H, where that would be located. Then additional sidewalk connections would run along John Deere. As part of our Main Street Master Plan, we do identify a pedestrian corridor along John Deere as it redevelops going to the west. With the development, they'd be doing environmental remediation. There are currently underground storage fuel tanks on site. So in the past, there were leaks, and which led to the overall contamination on that site. And then with this proposed stormwater plan, plans that they have, it'd be underground storage and treatment corresponding to the proposed development. A little bit on the zoning code and how this proposed development aligns with the zoning code. It's currently at 39.26 units per acre, which is just below the maximum for the downtown zoning district. Most of the downtown zoning district has 0-foot setbacks, so it meets the setback code limitations for the downtown area. As mentioned, it meets the height limitations. And overall, there's a reduction in impervious surface. Most of the site's all compacted gravel currently, so there'll be an incorporation of green space that's not currently on the site. A little bit on the parking unit breakdown. So of the 181 units, 40 of which would be alcove and studio units. 70 units would be 1 bedroom or 1 bedroom plus den. 62 units being 2 bedroom, and then 9 units being 3 bedroom. I had the developer provide anticipated estimates of what they have seen with comparable projects for total number of individuals per unit based on unit types. And that really equates to about a 1.8 persons per unit, so 326. Also noting that with the proposed breakdown of unit types being primarily studio and 1 bedroom, you're not seeing as many kids, so it's primarily going to be adults that are located within this facility. For parking, there's a total of 164, I should have updated that, 164 surface stall spaces and 209 enclosed spaces. So the 374 total spaces exceeds our code requirement of the 2 to 1 per unit. So we require 2 units or 2 stalls per unit, one of which has to be enclosed. Obviously, they've exceeded the number of enclosed spaces. As mentioned, they did do a traffic study, and the assumption of a 2028 completion date of the project, which would be following the Fletcher bypass completion just to the west along 81, which will connect into 81 to Territorial. Total of 1,124 daily trips, both in and out, which, as it shows in the traffic study, has a very minimal impact on nearby intersections. So they did evaluate a few of the different intersections, and really you're seeing about a 1 second change based on existing no build conditions or to the build conditions. One of the items that the traffic study mentioned, and the draft traffic study was attached to your packet as well, is a potential future connection from John Deere to industrial. So the traffic study doesn't include that as a component of the study, but it is one in which our Main Street Master Plan does identify creating that connection from John Deere to industrial. Corresponding to landscaping review, 38 new trees primarily focused along John Deere Lane, which really aligns to what you just saw for the Civic Campus and the landscaping proposed on John Deere on that side. This was one of the areas in which staff also directed, focusing those trees on John Deere side for that additional screening between the 2 uses, especially the PD side. So most of the trees you'll see are on the John Deere side, with some throughout the parking lot areas, especially in the islands as well. So the architecture, and I do have renderings on the next page, which kind of show it better, but really on the front, the John Deere side being a focal point for brick, similar to the Civic Campus, really wanted to focus on the overall look corresponding to the general area of keeping that brick facade, and then some paneling along all the sides as well as the rear pieces of the building. So as you'll see on this screen, the top right image would be what you'd see from John Deere. The top left image would be if you're taking the curve on John Deere and continuing westbound. And then you see the 2 sides, and then the bird's eye view on the bottom would be looking into that pool and clubhouse area. So I want to include a slide on the downtown vision, both corresponding to the proposed master plan as well as previous master plans. It's really looking to redevelop the industrial uses off from Main Street. So taking out the industrial uses, seeking more of the residential and commercial style uses, removal of substandard buildings and promoting environmental remediation. As part of their early evaluation of the site, the structure itself was deemed as substandard by LHB, who does those reviews. A substandard building or blighted building means there's enough ADA and other building code concerns that it creates challenges to reusing that building or bringing that building up to code as it would be to replacing it. Integration of housing to support and advance commercial viability on Main Street. So one of the key components is pushing commercial uses onto Main Street and ensuring we have the support for those commercial uses to remain viable well into the future, as well as attracting new and exciting uses to the area. Mentioned the architecture already, and then incorporating the sidewalk connection and landscaping for the John Deere future pedestrian connections. So tonight you are reviewing the site plan itself. There is a proposed draft resolution in your packet. This is not a public hearing, but the developer is here to answer any questions you have for them. And with that, I stand for any questions of staff.
Questions? Trash handling, is it interior to the building or is there gonna be enclosure?
So we will handle all of our trash from the inside of the building. There's trash chutes and that'll all drop down and we'll move it out from there. It may be that there's dumpsters out, on trash day, but otherwise it would be all handled inside.
I always feel like we're over parking everything. If staff would consider, I'm gonna let staff make the decision. Improve parking for 25 or so stalls. I just don't think that we need that many parking stalls.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commission members, we can definitely bring that as a recommendation to the City Council to see if they would like to go that route. I will also note that in the upcoming proposed master plan, of which you will see, there are recommendations on altering our parking standards related to the downtown area.
We would be happy to consider that as well.
You guys have been here before and appreciate you coming back again. Hearing no questions or comments, there's no motion. Just want to say thank you for coming. We really look forward to seeing this myself come to fruition.
And Mr. Chair, there is a proposed motion
Oh,
tied
nice.
to a resolution.
For site plan.
Yep.
All right, so the team's chat there. All right. Motion to recommend approval of resolution 2026-12 approving the site plan for 118 multifamily redevelopment at the subject address in accordance with the terms and conditions listed in the resolution. Do we have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Do we have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, there is a planning commission report, staff report, if you guys want to go through it. I don't have any questions myself, but I'd like to give you guys an opportunity to comment. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn for the night?
I so move.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.